This is the Audi Q3 Sportback, the SUV coupe version of the all-new Q3 generation. And here on Autogefühl with Thomas, we're going to take you on a detailed tour on the exterior, different trims, the interior and what we can expect from driving this vehicle. In Full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go! Well, you already see the Audi Q3 in the new generation. You've also maybe seen it here on Autogefühl, and it is somewhat similar, but this one here, the Q3 Sportback, gets a special grille with this comp style right there. It also here has a black or shadow package, which adds those black accentuations inside the grille and also here in the lower part. Then this is also the S-line, therefore you have a stronger lower bumper. The headlamps, they come standard with LED, but also in 3 different trims, and beginning with the second trim, then you also have cascading turning indicator lights. And this one here is the third trim, the Matrix LED light, then also with a more sophisticated high beam. But clearly it looks very sporty here in the very front, and you always get this very comp style grille. That's why they want to differentiate a little bit more to the Q3 SUV to give this SUV coupe style form, this Q3 Sportback, already from the front a sportier touch. 4 meters 50, 14 foot 8 or 177 inches is the length of the Q3 Sportback, and that's just about 2 centimeters longer than the normal Q3 SUV. The reason is that the rear lamps, they stand a little bit more out, and therefore they have made the rear bumper a little bit longer. So basically both are the very same cars, a little bit different here and there. Main difference is that the roofline here is 3 centimeters lower. You also have this coupe style rear ending right there. So it has a more dynamic, sportier look. And well, we see how it plays out for the rear headroom there. That will be very interesting. Then wheels come from 17 to 20 inch. Those ones here are the top 20 inch. And they always start from 17 inch aluminum wheels, together also with some other upgrades, so you have a little bit more standard equipment than with the Q3 SUV. And then the price is also a little bit higher. You can expect some 2,500 euros extra price if you compare it to the Q3 SUV. This one here is also the S-Line, and in this sporty S-Line you can either pick wheel arches in vehicle color, or you can also go for that one here, the contrasting wheel arches color, and also a contrasting lower part to still have somewhat this crossover SUV look, but then have it here as an SUV coupe. So what do you think about this styling? And by the way, talking about the suspension, this one will be very interesting. So normally there's a base suspension and the stiff sport suspension. That one is standard here for the Q3 Sportback, but without extra price you can go back to the normal base suspension if you want a little bit softer. And optional, there's an adaptive suspension available, which then varies a little bit from comfort to sport mode. And actually, I would recommend you to go for the base suspension or for the adaptive one if you want to spend a little bit more money, because the stiff sport suspension, especially if you combine it with 20-inch wheels here, we've driven that one in the Q3 SUV, and especially that combination was just too rough for the road. So, but what about design? Give me your comments. The color here is called Pulse Orange, by the way, and from the rear perspective you can clearly see that this window is very, very flat. That's the main difference to the Q3 SUV. Also the Q3 Sportback here gets a sportier style in the lower bumper with this somewhat diffuser style, and again a contrast to the vehicle color. So very beautiful work here for the LED in the rear. And there, if you have the higher LED trims, you can also again activate the turning indicator, which has this cascading style. And to show you another color, this one here is called Dew Silver, like the Mountain Dew. This one here also equipped with the S-Line package and with the black or shadow package, that you have those black accentuations there. However, this one is also the edition one that features the black Audi rings. You will not be able to get it later on afterwards if there's no edition one available anymore. And here you can also see a different wheel style, also 20-inch, just to give you a little bit more variation. And another rear perspective here on the other car, you see that when you have a bright color, the contrast to the black elements is even stronger. What do you think? The engine lineup of the Audi Q3 Sportback is just the same than the one of the Audi Q3 SUV. All 4-cylinder engines. Diesel side, a 2-liter with 150 or 190 horsepower. Petrol side, all turbos, either 150 horsepower, that is then a 1.5-liter engine, either with a manual gearbox or with the S-tronic dual clutch transmission. And then you also now get, that's new, a 48-volt board net with a mild hybrid system. And the extra price is supposed to be just the same one you would just pay for the S-tronic dual clutch transmission, because Audi really wants to push this mild hybrid system also to get their fleet consumption on paper down a little bit. But then interesting how it will play out for the real consumption later on, but very interesting to have that option. And then there's a 2-liter turbo petrol engine, either with 190 horsepower, or the top one you can see right here too, 230 horsepower. We have driven different engines, both petrol and diesel, already in the Audi Q3 SUV review. Please tune into that video. We will link it also below in the video description and in the comments. Then you also get a sense of the driving experience. I can already tell you so far, it will more or less be the same. It always depends on which suspension you pick and also the wheel size, how stiff or soft it is. But definitely it has a very agile driving feeling, the SUV version. So among the best in segment, and also when you have the adaptive suspension, comfortable at the same time. And also the noise insulation while driving was really superb. So in this segment, as for the driving features, it was really top notch. We can also expect that here from the Q3 Sportback. This is the car key, nothing special. Door closing sound. That sounds quite solid, like that. Inside of the doors, we start right here. The top part is, well, it's not entirely hard, it's not super soft. You can touch it, or press it a little bit. Overall great build quality. Then interesting here that this lever here from the inside of the door is basically the other way around, but that's the way you can grab it better than from the inside. Interesting. Nice clicking sound for the window levers. And also reasonable space at the inside of the doors. And I like this Alcantara use here for the armrest. Then if we move towards the inside, on the lower part you have the S entry badge. It's also illuminated just a little bit. And if we pan up right here, we can see the steering wheel has a flat bottom to already get you a sportier style. A lot of black panel design is being used, soon more to that. Let's first focus on the seats, because the seat in general has two forms, a base seat, which is a little bit more open, and then here a sport seat with stronger bolsters. Both are available in base fabric. That's the best choice for the best climate comfort in summer and winter. An option you can have different elements. For example, then you can get a little bit more Alcantara, some fabric, leatherette, animal skin mix. This one here is the seat which has the most animal skin part, but this one is also a mix of animal skin and leatherette, but no one knows really which part is from which origin. So Audi is reducing the animal skin share overall on the seat. And you can also get a total fabric seat, as I mentioned earlier. So different stylings available right there. Let's now get inside. No shoe tape today because it's all clean in this airport hangar here. Not sure how you pick up some background sounds, but definitely interesting also with some airplanes here inside. Then the seating position right here, I'm 1.86 m or 6'1", and that still leaves some headroom right here. That's the front, and it's the same than in the Audi Q3 SUV. How will it play out over the rear? Really looking forward to that. Steering wheel can be changed right here in reach and height. And the seat, either manual or optional with the electric function right here. This one here is, of course, a little bit handier than to do just some small controls while driving, for example. You have a good upright seating position. I like that. As I said, the same as in the Q3 SUV. Also, the ground clearance is just the same. It's just that the roofline on the top is a little bit lower, but that again rather affects the rear. So good feeling here in the front. You feel like you're in a grown-up SUV. That's also a major difference if you compare a previous Q3 generation to this one here. This one definitely feels more SUV-ish, more grown-up. So this is the interior overview. The whole middle console is about 10 degrees leaned towards me, towards the driver. Very interesting, driver focused. Nice Alcantara used here on the top part. Soft touch also, then the flat bottom steering wheel with a good grip. Right side volume control, left side you can use those digital instruments, zoom in and out for example. And it's interesting that the base setup is always coming with digital instruments. It's just that the base comes here on the left side with 10.25 inch and on the right side it would be 8.8 inch. And if you upgrade it, you get a new combination like this. This is the top spec, 12.3 inch digital instruments on the left and 10.1 inch screen on the right. And let's just start with those digital instruments right here on the left. You can here zoom in and out on the map. This is the big map view, but you can also make it a little bit smaller if you want a better instrument view. But you can also have, for example, those assistance system information in the central part or the consumption figures and so on. So it's a very clear display. If you have the small or the bigger one, yeah, I mean, it always depends on the price. This one, of course, pretty fancy with the big option call list here. For example, you don't have to use the central infotainment system while driving. Then you can also call people right from here. And the main infotainment unit is all done via touch. It also gives you some clicking feedback. You can also activate the main haptical feedback that you really have to press in this field, but it's not recommended. I would just use it like this. It's more smartphone like how we're used to. Talking of smartphones, either Bluetooth connection or then with the USB Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And new now also, you can have the wireless Apple CarPlay. First time also in the Audis now. So far only BMW offered that. And here also a look at the GPS map. It zooms in and out. Actually it's quite responsive and also a great visualization. That's also nicely done. You can also use the voice input, by the way, for GPS or for changing the temperature. But to what we've experienced, not as sophisticated as what BMW and Mercedes at the moment are offering as for the voice input. And I really like we still have this somewhat manual climate unit, also with nice clicking. And the beautiful metal knurling around the knobs. I like this quality detail, and it's just easier to control it while driving than doing this one also in a touchscreen. So I like this mix that we have a touchscreen for the GPS, but still here those manual climate unit. What's your take on that, guys? Also seat heating available as an option. You start the car below that. There's also a volume knob for the co-driver. I always call it co-driver here, rally style. So when you have the music too loud at the steering wheel and your co-driver suddenly says, hey, the music is too loud, and can always turn it down. Yeah, you know those situations, don't you? And below that we have the drive select, which is standard for the Q3 Sportback. If you just have automatic gearbox, for example, and not the adaptive suspension, it will rather change how the shifting up earlier or later. But if you have the adaptive suspension, then also, for example, in dynamic mode, the suspension goes a little bit stiffer, and in the comfort mode, it's more comfortable. Again, if you have the money for the adaptive suspension, it's definitely recommended. It really gives you more comfort and also more flexibility when you have some dynamic situations or then want to have it more comfortable in the long-term run. Lower middle console, we have an inductive charging platform right here, an option. Then there's the automatic gear shifting lever for the dual clutch transmission. If you continue on further, electric handbrake, then those cup holders here are adaptive. They keep tight here for the different bottle sizes. That's very well done. You could put your keyboard here, or you just can keep it in the pocket when you have the wireless function. Then the leatherette cover for the armrest, and is also very well attached. You cannot shake it, so always a good, nice interior quality test. And some more room here underneath. Let's now get in the rear. The door does not open too wide, but still quite okay. You sit also somewhat high and upright here in the rear, and now it gets really exciting because this rear bench can be slid forward and backward, but in the Q3 SUV, 15 centimeters front and back, and here 13 centimeters. And those 2 centimeters, I cannot slide it even more back. is somewhat what I'm missing in the front of my knees. However, as a tall person, 1 meters 86 or 6'1", you can still sit here. So you can drive this car with 4 adults, but definitely a little bit less legroom in the normal than in the normal Q3. Also with a hard shell here at the back part of the seat. It might be a little bit better if you go for the base seat form. I suppose they're a little bit thinner, then you have also a little bit more legroom because the sport seats are usually a little bit thicker. That could be one solution. But headroom now, well, when I sit a little bit, cramped like from the spine, still okay. But when I put my spine all the way upright, I do hit the ceiling with my head. So like this, if you sit somewhat relaxed, you can still put a hand over your head. That's okay. But again, you feel that you have less headroom. It is somewhat okay, especially if you're not that tall, but you definitely have to, be aware of that you lose some legroom and some headroom here if you compare it to the Q3 SUV. Then, what is quite good that you can change the angle here of the seat, a little bit more upright or more lean back. And this is also the way you would then flip the seats entirely. We will show you that very soon from the trunk. So, and need to push it back. Isofix is at the outside of the seat, and we have a middle armrest here also with some cup holders to fold out. And you maybe have seen in the front there's the normal USB, or let's say old USB, and a USB-C charger. And in the rear you can get 2 additional ones. Those ones are then the old school style. So it's a transition period definitely. So far as for me, I don't have any USB-C devices yet. So I think it's a good solution here to offer both at the same time. And now as for the trunk, electric tailgate, and the liter figure is 530 liters, the same Q3 SUV and Q3 Sportback. The difference is that you lose some height right here. That's the main difference. And also when you flip the seat, the liter figure then is a little bit lower, 1,400 liters. That's 125 liters less than with a flipped seat setup than with a Q3 SUV. But again, the main difference is you have less height here. You can also put this one here up and it stays up right there. Either you have some more room underneath, or if you have the additional 15-speaker B&O sound system, you have the subwoofer right here. By the way, this 15-speaker B&O sound system is really cool. Yes, it's really expensive as an extra, but it gives an extraordinary sound, one of the best sounds in those compact vehicles I've heard so far. We already tested that one at our Q3 driving review. Then you can see actually some good square dimensions, very well usable trunk. I've already put the seat bench here a little bit forward, though 13 centimeters here. Then you can see the difference. This would be all the way back for most legroom. This would be here for a longer trunk, but still, when you, for example, have child seats there in the front, but want a little bit longer trunk. Then also, by the way, interesting, this cover here looks really huge, but you can also remove it and then store it here underneath. If you then remove those side caps, then you have also enough width to store the top cover right there. There's also a clean solution, because you always ask yourself, when you remove it here for some transport, where to put it. And that's also a good solution for that. Then if I flip those seats, you can also see a little bit more from the maximum setup right here. Then you can also get a length of about 2 meters. And if I flip the second part, is of course a gap then here. It makes more sense to move them backwards than once more. But then you can see it's, from the outside a compact SUV, but the package you have on the inside is still quite decent. Of course, even more decent with the Q3 SUV. That's the compromise you have to make when you pick this Sportback, fastback style, crossover, however you want to call it, SUV coupe. It's always a question of definition. And the color interior variation here with the other car, you see with a little bit brighter Alcantara at the inside of the doors, and also at the seats they have some brighter contrast, not all the way black. This is a gray style then, also with Alcantara inserts right there. And as I said earlier, the seat's also available with some fabric on the inside or Alcantara at the inside parts, so a lot of variation available there. As I said earlier, you can also just save the money and go all the way fabric. It will also look good. And now to our conclusion for today with the Audi Q3 Sportback. Exterior, in general, it looks quite impressive, although it's not such a big car. It really has a compact size in this length, but looks very strong already in the front, already a little bit sporty and stronger than the Q3 SUV. Then this side silhouette, I think it looks quite nice and adds this sporty character. Of course, it's somewhat a compromise because on the inside you lose a little bit of legroom and headroom both. However, still there is a good package. It's just that the Q3 SUV has an even better package. The interior build quality is really superb, and there are also more and more nice seating choices here in the lower segments if you compare it also to the bigger Audi cars. So overall, a very good car, no doubt. In driving, we can also expect some agility and also comfort fun, at least when you have the adaptive suspension or the base suspension. Yeah, their setup here is to think, sporty looking car, also very stiff, but we cannot recommend that, as I said, from our experience with the Q3 SUV. Also look out for the wheel size, because those very big rims there, they look cool, but again also reduce the comfort a little bit. But if you have some more money left, rather put it to the sound system, because that one then, the optional 15-speaker sound system, is really a cool extra to pick. Very, very interesting how the share will be on the market. Of course, the Q3 SUV will be the most important one still. Also, this one here, the Sportback, will not be available on the US market because the US department of Audi decided against it. Not sure if that's the right decision. Is it maybe because you have a little bit less space in the rear? That might have been the main reason for that. I am not so sure about that. Engine-wise, the mild hybrid system will be very interesting if that will give some more fuel savings in this 1.5-liter engine. I hope to be able to drive that in the driving review of this one. So far, please tune in to the Q3 SUV driving part, and you will also know a lot more about this very vehicle. I hope you enjoyed our episode here today, and please also tune in next time and leave us your comments about this vehicle.